Hello and welcome to Indie Possible. Today we're talking about Animorphic. Animorphic on a budget and something super simple on a budget. I wouldn't say super simple, but I would say that with a little bit of work that you'd be able to get a nice little setup for maybe around $250. And these are all cell phone setups, but it just allows a lot of latitude. And by that I mean you can get 10-bit 422, you can get face tracking, those kinds of things. They're not perfect, but for the price, I think they're pretty good. So first I'm going to show you what it is that I have, and then I'm going to tell you how I set it up. And there's about kind of 3 different setups that are very similar, but still they're different. So I have the Dji Om3, and I have the Samsung S20. I have the iPhone XS, and I'm using Filmic Pro with the Samsung, and I'm using the DJI app with the iPhone XS. But for either one of those 2 cell phone setups, I have a Ulanzi Animorphic adapter. This one actually works with the Osmo Pocket. It's like this little itty-bitty anamorphic lens that goes on the Osmo Pocket. Now, on this thing, I have mounted a polarizing filter, 37mm polarizing filter. I also have a variable ND filter, which is also a 37mm filter. The filters ran about $5 a piece. And the variable filter came with a cell phone clip. So you got to kind of assemble all these things together. Now on the side, it doesn't have to be part of it, but it's kind of helpful sometimes, is I got a Raspberry Pi screen. It's just a generic one for about 17 bucks. And I have a ChromaCast. So I can ChromaCast from the Samsung S20 to my little Raspberry Pi screen. But I have to use a TP-Link, an AC750 nano router. It doesn't have to be that one, but a little nano router that can be powered by this little battery bank. Because I have to create your own little network, so if you're not near your home's network. Otherwise, you could probably get away without the router. Anyways, the other setup, because that's kind of, it's 2 different phones just for this one setup. One of them, the Samsung S20, it allows me to do the 10-bit 422, and also it's easy for me to use it with the ChromaCast. But the iPhone XS lets me use the DJI app. It lets me use the tracking in there, the active track. It also allows me to shoot in 24p in the DJI app, which is kind of strange because the S20, it doesn't let me use the 24p and the same adjustments as the iPhone does. So I don't know if it's a proprietary thing, hardware-wise, or if it's whatever it is. Anyways, but if you want to go for something super heavy, because this is what I first started trying out. I got this DJI Ronin, this Ronin S. This was about 200 bucks by itself. So I'm just saying the evolution of it. So this Ronin S. And I had a larger ND filter. This brand is a Ultimax variable ND filter. And then I had a Ulanzi anamorphic lens. Now, one thing that's kind of better about this one is it's a larger lens. This one is so close. It's so small. It's so close to the width of the actual phone lens that on the side it has some blur. So that's kind of a problem if you have a character on the edge and you don't want it to be blurred. This doesn't really let you change that. You kind of have to center things. This one's heavier though, and so this only lets you use, I don't know, it's not even, maybe less than a pound, like 380 grams or something. And so you can't even have a case on this. This setup right here, with this anamorphic lens, with this ND filter, with this polarizing filter, with all these items here, you are still light enough to be mounted on this DJI Osmo 3. You can't do that with this one. This one by itself, you just can't do that. It's not light enough to be able to fit on this rig. You can't have a case, you can't have any of these things. Anyways, but with this one, you can use the 10-bit 422 of the Samsung S20, and then you can use the tracking of the iPhone XS. So I can mount my iPhone XS right here, and I can mount the Samsung S20 here, so I get sort of both. But then you have to carry around this whole extra thing, and it's still not a perfect communicator. But with that, at least, you can kind of get a little more of what you might want if you can put up with the awkwardness of it. And I used a piece of plastic that I cut out from a sheet that I got over at Home Depot for about $7 for a polycarbonate sheet. I use this polycarbonate, and so I can just push it into place right here. And it's not perfect, but so then you just clip it onto the back of the phone, and you put the phone right here, the one that you're going to shoot with. You adjust it however you want to. You put the other phone up there. You use a cell phone mount or something like that, and then you have that whole rig going on there. But that's more expensive, and when you start going towards there, it might be better just to have a camera or something else, I don't know. So what we're really thinking about right here is this DJI Om3. And if I wanted to do it with the iPhone, it's pretty much the same thing. It's just swapping phones and swapping apps. But with this little adapter that I kind of made, I had to trim things off of it and keep weighing it to make sure that it would be light enough to be able to work with this. So this little plate I made because the back of the iPhone has a protruding camera bump, and I needed this little piece of plastic to keep the little adapter pieces from colliding with the rear camera. Also, for the little Ulanzi Animorphic lens, there's a magnet on the back. I did not realize, but if you put that magnet on the back of the iPhone, it will cause the iPhone's camera focus to kind of go crazy. That magnet affects the phone's focusing ability. And I have to kind of stack all these things together. So I stacked the variable ND filter on top of the polarizing filter. I put the polarizing filter on top of the clip. Now I cut sort of a track inside of there so I can put the little anamorphic lens inside, and that kind of keeps it centered a little bit. But when you're assembling it, there's still some finagling you have to do, turning it and such. Anyway, so once the adapters are all kind of stacked, you end up with this little dealy bob, and you still have to take the case off. This phone I got for about $150 because the screen had separated from it. So all these things right here I got off of eBay, and the screen holds on pretty well. I used some double-sided sticky tape and just sticky tape the screen on, and everything works on there. But you put the little adapter plate on the bottom that keeps it from totally colliding with the lens, and then you put this one on top of it like that, and then you can go ahead and put it in here. And it manages to balance. then you can launch your DJI app. You can put it into 24p, and you can set your shutter speed to 48, 50, whatever it is you're setting it at. And you can change your variable ND filter. And there you go. You have anamorphic, you have active tracking, and you have 24p. All in one little compact package. Now you basically do the same thing if you're using your S20, but you can use the battery bank, the Raspberry Pi screen, and your Chromacast. I don't have the AC750 right here with me, but it's a little white thing about this big, and it's powered by USB bank. So if you wanted to do it in 10-bit 422, and you'd use Filmic Pro, which is about $14, you would use the Raspberry Pi screen, and you would use the little travel router and the Chromacast, and you could put your screen with some sort of bracket right here. So you would get this tangle of wires. And I had to make this little body case out of it, out of polycarbonate. Again, the same piece of polycarbonate. You can cut so much stuff out of the polycarbonate. One little $7 sheet of polycarbonate they use for picture frame instead of glass. Then you would just Chromacast to the router from your phone, and you would have that. Anyways, so this was about $30. This is about $150. Each one of these are about $5. So let's say that's 150, 60, 70, 80, say 90. That's like maybe $250 worth of stuff I have here. That doesn't include, you know, sound, like a micro recorder or anything like that. So you're still going to have to get some other stuff for better sound. But in a pinch, if you just wanted to start doing some recording of yourself, you would be able to do that. So this is what it looks like when I actually have the iPhone set up. Now, one step I forgot is that the DJI app does not automatically desqueeze the footage. So you actually have to use some sort of desqueezing program to be able to desqueeze it. Now with Filmic Pro, it actually can be desqueezed in-app. In the description, I'll actually put the app that I use because I can't remember it offhand. But this is about the quality you can expect with the iPhone XS. And I'm not going to bother to go through all the taking off that, because that is actually kind of a headache for me. I'm not real familiar with iOS. And really the only reason that I use it is just so that I can get the app interaction between the phone and the stabilizer. But as you can see, it's kind of nice to be able to have a little friend to be watching you and know that it's shooting in 24p and that you could go outdoors extra bright because you can set your shutter speed at 50 or 1/50th, and you can use your variable ND filter, and you're not going to have to worry about blown out stuff. You get your stabilization, and there you go. You get a little bit of everything. But you do have, handbrake, that's what I use, handbrake. I have to use the free app handbrake to desqueeze it after I get the video off of whatever device. And there you have it. I may upload some desqueezed recorded footage in the future, but for right now you're just seeing what I would normally see before I actually go through all that process. So here you go.